So now let's talk about how are you going to find the people to participate in this study, which is often called recruiting. So let's dive into this aspect because oftentimes people don't think about the source of the data, whether that be in survey and focus groups, in any sort of testing. And I think it's really crucial to make sure that the quality and specificity of the people that you're speaking to matches your target audience so that the insights that they provide you, you can extrapolate to a larger group. So, one mistake that companies, especially small companies or startups, make is assuming everyone is their target audience, and that's virtually never the case. Consider whether you want to test with current customers, new and potential customers who might provide fresh or unbiased opinions, whereas customers, they have brand loyalty and familiarity, so you might want to mix that in. But think about that you might have multiple target audiences, and they may not necessarily look like what you expect or what you presume. So oftentimes people do recruiting based on what's called demographics: age, gender, household income, marital status, those kind of things. And all of those in certain contexts can be extremely helpful, but use them with caution because oftentimes attitudinal or behavioral um, criteria proves to be much more useful in getting you what you want than going on demographics alone. Um, for instance, you may assume, oh, this is a premium product, so they should have a high household income. And what you really may mean is they might need to have a high enough discretionary income to be able to afford your product. So, for instance, someone might say like, oh, they should all have 100K household income and you're a national snack food. Well, uh, a family of three living in Iowa on $100,000 may be a lot. $100,000 in Palo Alto, family of four, they're under the poverty line. So don't rely on demographics that may be widely used but are oftentimes an oversimplification. Look at past purchase behavior and use that as a predictor of whether they're really the right target for you. So you can screen people based on multiple criteria. What I do not recommend is relying upon your Facebook friends and your Instagram following and your email list exclusively without really understanding the pros and cons of doing so. The reason is that bad data can be worse than no data at all. So picking the right people from whom you're getting that feedback is going to be critical. Also, it's easy to think that just because it looks pretty in a table or chart or in a report, especially with AI, just because it looks pretty doesn't mean it's correct. So resist the temptation to get into lots of systems with fancy charts and tables and AI enablement until you really know what you're doing and that the people that you have are your right target. So that can involve doing intercept recruitment at a place that you know your target audience goes, whether that be a music venue or a little league game or what have you, or there are professional recruitment services and even online recruitment services that can help you with that. And having ready to use templates will save you a lot of time. So when you recruit people, you're going to want to follow up with a confirmation email. You're going to want to set up reminders. You're going to want to manage expectations about what's going to be involved in this process. Managing expectation is critical. So think about the time it's going to take. Factor in any travel that's involved, parking, or other logistical issues. And be sure when you're thinking about recruiting, recruit more people than you are actually going to need to participate to meet your minimums, because invariably life happens. Kids get sick, people have accidents, people don't feel like participating in what they thought they did. So keep that all in mind when you're recruiting. So how do you make sure that you get the people that you need? What are screening questions to know if they qualify? Well, age or generation, simple age verification or generational identification question can be helpful. Um, you know, Not everyone's going to want to give their birthday or even their birth year or even their age. So those are factors to consider depending on what the product is that you're testing. State of residence, sometimes important for diversity and in terms of distribution, and for controlled substances like cannabis, obviously for regulatory compliance. Location and travel time, figuring out can participants realistically attend at the time that this is going to take place. So don't rely simply on miles. You could have something in Los Angeles where 10 miles could take an hour, or you could have some place where 10 miles could take 20 minutes. So factoring that in mind, in addition to traffic and parking and all those logistics. There's also what we call an industry screen. So if you're testing a snack food, you don't want to have people who are in professions connected to that industry, or even who have household members that might have knowledge of or a vested interest in that particular category, because that introduces biases that are usually detrimental to the data collection. So focus on consumption activities, and also distinguish between consumers and purchasers. So if you're looking at breakfast cereal, most likely you're going to have maybe kids who are the consumers, but a parent who's the purchaser. So depending on the product category, you want to think about consumption versus purchasing. In a regular, typical CPG product where you can be confident that the consumer and the purchaser are going to mostly be the same people, like skincare, that kind of thing, that might not be as important. But do reach out if you have questions about that. Purchase activities, like what's the recency and frequency of purchasing that product. And you need to keep in mind things like if they purchase at a big box store or a Costco type place, their frequency of purchase may be different than if they're buying at a pharmacy. So nuances to keep in mind. Understanding where they buy their products. Is it online? Is it in person? Is it a club store? Is it a supermarket? Those kind of things. And also asking about brand familiarity and what we would call a brand rejection. So if you're a dish soap and you have a competitive landscape that includes 3 or 4 top competitors, you might want to ask about awareness of yours and the competitors' brands, and if there are any that they wouldn't buy for whatever reason, and exclude certain people accordingly. Then you've got gender identification. So you want to ensure that there's balanced representation in your study. So, well, balanced in terms of your target audience. So if you're looking at tampons, you're probably just going to want to talk to women of a certain age, at a certain time in life. Obviously, you're not going to introduce men or women who are at other stages in their life. So just, keep that in mind, the relevance of the gender question when you're asking it. Employment status, you want to match your target participant's lifestyle. It used to be that people would get flat out rejected if they were unemployed, but I don't think that's necessarily the case, especially in some categories. Whether you're employed or not, you're going to still have certain brand loyalties. And there may be yes, there might be a price sensitivity or what have you, but factor that into your screener. And then again, occupation is a way of, an occupation of the people in the household is a way of double checking for potential conflicts of interest. So, um, if you're doing something with a food, obviously you're going to want to consider dietary restrictions to ensure the participant is safe to test that. Other things to consider is or are asking participants to avoid certain substances before testing that could influence their palate. So there's everything from spicy foods to acidic foods to coffee to onions or what, like there's a list of things that people should avoid before they're testing something at a study where food is served. And then obviously you're going to want to get contact information, at least their email, to be able to follow up with them if they're qualified. I will have a template available with examples of questions for you to pick and choose from. And again, always available if you want to have a conversation or need some extra guidance along the way. Sometimes making sure you have the right questions in place can save you a lot of time and grief in the long run.